Welcome back to the third episode of the Behind the Bricks podcast. Today's episode is about lighting and how to achieve the quote-unquote perfect lighting. Me and Tom will be discussing our tips and tricks and how to light a set and how to create a good atmosphere for your brick films. So, without further ado, roll the tape.
What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to Behind the Bricks. I am Tom Scorch Bricks, and joining me is my co-host and co-creator Jared from Dude Brick.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to Behind the Bricks, episode number 3.
Here we are, 3. They come in threes, they say, but in this case, we're going to do a lot more than 3. So
That's right.
So that's fun. So what are we talking about today, Jared?
I believe today's topic is something that, it's very interesting and very interesting. Wow, what's the word I'm looking for? A complicated topic. Lighting. It's a problem we all have as brick filmers and filmmakers these days, and it's very important for a brick film. And I think we have a lot of experience with this, and we could definitely talk a lot about it and how it it affects brick films and how to get better with it.
Yeah. I thought it was a particularly bright idea to have it as an episode.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. That's fun.
Here we go.
I'm glad we got that pun out of the way.
Yeah. Okay. So, right. I guess we'll just. I tell you what. Let's run me through how you light your sets, J-Man.
Well, I usually do the usual, 2 light setup, 2 lamps, you buy from Target or a Walmart or any other store in your country. Get a piece of paper and some tape and tape it on there, man. And, you get that nice, clean, crisp white light. I prefer to use LED bulbs because, I used to use, those regular light bulbs, but those, overheat incredibly fast and, they make your room really hot, and sometimes they actually burn through the paper and make your lamps, very hot to touch, and I prefer not to use those. So I moved to LED bulbs, and I want to get more lamps because I feel like 2 is not enough. But I also have these like 2 little LED lights. They have like a bunch of LEDs on them, and they allow me to put like different color gels on them. And I actually use these for my 8x8x8 entry purple more, and it adds a very nice hair light and a different mood light, and it's just a very nice asset to have. And also another thing I use is like this LED color bulb, which you can buy on Amazon for like $14, and it gives you like a remote, and you're allowed to change the color of the light bulb whenever you want. And it's really cool. You can change the brightness of it and the dimness of it. And there's several different colors, ranging from red, green, blue, purple, orange, yellow, pink. And there's even a white setting as well. So it's very helpful, and I think it's a key component to lighting. And I think everyone should totally get one off Amazon if they can.
That's yeah. I was gonna say that's a pretty nice, inexpensive solution. In the grand scheme of things, that's nice. That sort of brings us nicely into the first sort of question I'm going to throw out. Say if you were making a film about, say, some soldiers in a submarine, and they've got their whole, action stations, so all the lights go red.
Right, yeah.
Would you, if you were making that scene, would you shoot the set with red light, or would you shoot it with regular light and then add the red in post?
That's interesting, because that's kind of funny actually, because I feel like that submarine example is very reminiscent of something that you might be doing later in life. But
Hey.
Besides that, I feel like I want to get everything as much as I can in camera, and I think using a red light gives it that natural look, because I feel like if you do it in post, it kind of I feel like you can tell it's fake, and I don't like that, whether it's for filming or in my live action filmmaking. So I feel like I would rather, get the red light in camera as much as I can, because I feel like it makes it look like, man, they're actually in a submarine and they're actually, on a red alert right now, instead of using a white light or a regular LED bulb and just, color grading in post. Now, granted, I think I would use one LED bulb just to get, that little hair light, but then also use one or two red lights and to also give that red alert effect. So overall, I think I'd try to get it in camera. What about you?
Well, I guess, so I haven't really had too much experience with different colored bulbs. It's definitely something I might look into in the future. Traditionally, I would have done it in post, but I guess, like, sometimes looking at it, probably because you end up fiddling with the contrast and stuff, it's sort of, some angles can make, it sort of a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking for, like, not so realistic looking, or something about it looks a little bit off, which I think you wouldn't get if you just lit the set with the red light. And I guess it goes back to that whole, if you can do it practically, you should do it practically approach.
Totally. I think it's very reminiscent of a CGI talk we had on the Frame 100 podcast, and it's kind of like, should you do it or should you not do it? And I think it really plays to the fact of, are you able to do it? And if you are, I think you probably should do it, being practical. Or if you can't be practical, then I guess you kind of have to do it in post. So I guess it really depends on the filmmaker and whoever is doing it.
Also, I guess kind of the style you're going for.
Yeah, totally.
Because, for example, I know this is a little bit different, but if you were doing like a noir film, it's black and white, that you might end up adding in some shadows and changing the light out later.
Yeah.
Also, I mean, definitely expect to do some sort of color correction later on,
right.
which is sort of based on the lighting, and that sort of brings us into the next bit, where you said earlier that you prefer to use LED bulbs.
Yeah.
Because it's cooler.
Yeah, I think it makes your room and wherever you animate a whole lot cooler. And it doesn't make you sweat, and it doesn't make you, burn your hands when you're trying to move the lamps or whatever lighting system you have. So I think, LED bulbs are the faster, kind of cheaper. They are kind of expensive depending on what bulbs you get, but
I guess they last longer though, or they should last longer.
I've seen some LED bulbs that last like 20 years, and they're very well made, and they're very bright, and they don't get too dim whenever they start dying. So I mean, I've had these LED bulbs for, I want to say 2 or 3 years now, probably 2, and they're still acting like I just bought them yesterday. So I think these bulbs last longer than the regular light bulbs you put in your ceiling fans or other lighting systems that you may have around your house.
Yeah, I'm still on my first set of LED bulbs actually, which I mean, shout out to Austin from Frame 5 Studios, because he got me onto that, because originally I used to use a couple of desk lamps. So I started out with 2 desk lamps with just irregular bulbs in, and I would sort of do a little bit of color correcting in post, but it didn't quite sort of, with the warm light bulbs as they were, like the your average household light bulb, they'd sort of give the bricks a little bit of a yellow tint, especially when there was sort of like white bricks involved, so like clone troopers or something like that. Whereas when I switched to LEDs, I can't remember when I did make the switch, but it wasn't, I think it was before Batman Tomorrow actually, and it does definitely crispen up the image. And that was the other feature about the whole keeping the lamps cool. That was I sort of didn't expect it to be so different, but that was nice, because you definitely can get quite warm when you're spending hours on end trying to animate.
Yeah, those bulbs, those regular light bulbs, really do mess up your color balance, or the white balance especially.
Yeah.
And it makes like everything in your set give it this orange, warm color, and it may work for you depending on what your set is or where your scene takes place, but when you're just in a regular house or a regular bat cave or something, Like that warm tone is not gonna, depict your film very well. I think, using LED bulbs gives it that kind of that neutral look, and it gives you a lot of freedom to mess with the white balance and the color balance and really make it easier for you to change the tone of your film depending, where your scene or film takes place.
Yeah, for sure. So a couple of films ago of mine, I think it might have been for Dead Space actually, I picked up a third lamp, and so now I'm working off a 3-point light system, which is quite nice. So I've sort of got one light on the foreground, one on the background, and then one I point generally behind the characters just to sort of separate them from the background a bit and make it a little bit more crisp.
Yeah.
And another thing I do with my desk lamps, because they're not light boxes, I think we'll get onto light boxes a bit in a minute, is this is a really, really nice, easy trick. You've got to be a little bit careful if you've got bulbs that heat up a bit, which is another reason why LEDs are great, is I take a piece of A4 white paper and I just tape it to the lamps. Just so the white paper is between the lights and the set, and what that does is sort of diffuses the light rays a bit more, and you don't get such harsh dots, particularly because as you know, Lego can get quite shiny sometimes. So I feel like the more you disperse out your light, it makes it more evenly lit, and you don't get those sort of harsh dots of light and bouncing back.
You also don't get those harsh shadows too, and because I think shadows really ruin a brick film. Depending on where the scene takes place. I mean, if your scene takes place in a desert or or the hot Sahara or something like that, then shadows may be okay. But other than that, shadows should not be in your brick film at all. And I think paper or any type of diffusion really helps out.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess the gold-plated solution is to use light boxes. I know a lot of the high-end brick filmers tend to use light boxes. Have you had any experience at all using light boxes?
I have at my work, but brick filming wise, I have not. I know Austin at Frame 5 uses them. I think Matt does too at Bricktails.
Yeah.
I've been wanting to purchase some for my brick filming endeavors, but I just haven't made that bargain yet. But I know those are really well made, and they really bring a lot of light into your set, and you can just and they come with their own diffusion, so you don't have to get your own piece of paper. And I think depending on which ones you buy, some come with 2 bulbs, or some come with 4 or 5. They really give you a lot of light, a lot of white neutral light too. And if you buy more than one, you can aim one towards your ceiling, because normally ceilings in a house are white, and that's able to bounce a light off the ceiling onto your set, and it just adds more depth, and it gives you a more lit set, and they're very helpful. And I wish I could buy some right now, but I can't because I don't have room on my desk or in my room. But
yeah, it's definitely something I want to look into, sort of probably in the further off future.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's something to aim towards, I guess. But interesting you said about light bouncing. Now, as I'm sure most of the listeners are aware, one of the biggest enemies of the stop motion animator is light flicker. Because I think light is one of those things that this quote is actually used in a lot of different departments of filmmaking, but I think it's definitely applicable here, is that good lighting means you shouldn't necessarily notice the lighting. Right. You know what I'm saying? So if you're noticing a flickering effect, and you're not supposed to, then that's it's almost a bit of a shame, because it sort of takes the watcher, the viewer, out of the immersion.
It sure does, because I think this is a problem every brick filmer has, depending on your skill level. When you're first starting out, this is something that everyone has to deal with, because when you're first starting out, you just have a camera, you have your Lego, and then you just you make your film. But when you're years of experience, that light flicker is very distracting. It takes you away from the story and the animation itself, so you try to avoid that as much as possible. So I mean, it's really a travesty whenever you animate such a good shot, and then you notice at the very couple last frames, the light changes, and you're just like, oh my lord, I messed up, and I want to quit for the rest of my life. What if you had any tips on light flicker? What would you say about that?
So my top tip, my number one tip, is one I got from an old Forest Fire video actually. Is you actually have to be a little bit considerate about the most ridiculous things, like what you're wearing, for example. And it's a really good idea to wear a darker t-shirt or a jumper or whatever, because that means that when you're moving between takes behind the camera, you're not changing the light levels in the set, because if you're wearing a white t-shirt, for example, you would be quite reflective to the light, so you would almost be acting as another lamp.
Yeah.
Sort of in a more smaller fashion, but still noticeable. And it definitely does have an effect.
Yeah.
Go on.
I think probably the biggest one that every young animator gets told is, don't animate during the daytime. I think a lot of young people really have trouble with that. But if you're not able to animate in the nighttime, the best solution to animate in the daytime, close all your windows, get all your curtains, line them up, close the windows, cover the windows, cover any sort of light source you can, and get your room or your animating set as dark as possible. And I think that will limit the amount of light flicker on your set a whole lot.
Yeah, I think basically the key rule is you want all the light to be in front of you. So even something like a ceiling lamp behind you want to switch that off.
Yeah.
Basically, you don't want any light between. You don't want to be between any light source and the set. So you just want the desk lamps. The desk lamps for sure. Another interesting topic that gets talked about quite a bit when the topic of lighting comes up is things like brick stuff lights.
Oh yes.
So for those of you who don't know, brick stuff lights is like I guess it's sort of integrated lighting in your set. So like Lego, like for example, not brick stuff lights, but Lego make their own light bricks, which is a straightforward example. I personally wouldn't use any of Lego's light bricks in the
absolutely not
set, because you have to activate them with your hand, don't you? So
yeah, you have to hold them down. I remember I had one in this old Lego City Winter Wonderland town kind of thing, and there were these light bricks in the little cookie houses, and you had to push them manually, and then so those definitely would not work for like a whole scene. But if you had to use it for like a couple of frames, then yeah, it could work. But those definitely are not lights that we would recommend using for a long period of time.
No, yeah, but I think brick stuff lights is sort of more of I mean, I know Austin again uses them quite a lot in his film, and they're quite popular because of their size. They're so small, and yet they're so effective. So you can literally have, instead of like a human-sized lamp, you can have a minifigure-sized lamp in the set, which I guess helps for the realism. Also, they come in lots of different colors, so depending on how you're lighting your set, and if you need different lamps to pop up, then like I guess if you're in a big sort of computer center, you might want lots of different colored lights. And brick stuff lights could definitely help you with that. I personally have never used them myself.
Yeah, I haven't either. I would love to purchase some, but they're pretty pricey. I think the cheapest starter kit is like 50 or 60 something bucks.
Yeah.
Depending on where you live, of course. But I think they add a lot of depth and a lot of awesome colors to your set, and they can make your set look not as bland or not as neutral, even though that's the kind of the look we want to go for. But it really helps add a mood to your set and add a mood to your film. And I think they're really wonderful pieces of little lighting wires and little Lego bricks. And I mean, if you have the money and you really want to add some more bits and pieces to your film, I definitely recommend checking Brickstuff out at brickstuff.com. Sponsor us, Brickstuff, because we're looking for sponsors.
Yeah, no, but in all seriousness, they're definitely something I'm looking to get into probably in the future, especially if you are lighting a big set, for example, like a Batcave or something like that.
Oh yes, that would look insanely good in the Batcave, I think.
Yeah, I've seen some quite nice mocks with integrated lighting systems in it. It really does look like the stuff.
Yeah, and I think a lot of mock users that do a lot of mocks for like BrickCons or anything like that, I think they do integrate some of those stuff in their mocks. I think it really helps, especially.
Yeah, for sure. Well, can you think of one of the greatest, say, lessons you've learned yourself while in the process of making a film in terms of lighting?
I mean, or other than the ordinary normal tips that you get, wearing a black shirt or animating complete darkness, I think what really does help is getting. Here's a tip: is getting like a white business card or some type of white piece of paper cut up, and when you're animating pretty close to your minifigures, if you can tell that under your minifigures, like quote unquote chin or under their face and torso, it gets pretty dark down towards the bottom. So if you slide like a little business card or like a white piece of paper underneath your webcam or your anime or your lens, the light bounces off that and onto the lower torso of your minifigure, and it really brightens up that little area, and it helps a lot. So I think using that or even a mirror or what's the word? What is that thing? Aluminum foil, and putting that off to the side of your set, it really helps lighten up the dark, shadowy spots of your set and really brings it out more. I think those are the couple big things that I've learned watching other animators on YouTube.
That's really nice, actually. That's really nice. Just as we go into, because we're getting on here. We're on for about 22 minutes now. I think the last topic we should discuss is how would you go about shooting a scene that was in the nighttime, say, outside? Because I know in a lot of, if you see really old films, what used to happen is that the person would walk outside, for example, and they'd switch off their stage lights and then switch on different lights because it was in black and white. It still had to be light, but it sort of gave the illusion of night. It maybe didn't do it so well, but I guess this kind of goes back to before. Would you do something like that in post, or would you do it in the camera, or would you do it with less lighting?
That's a tough one, because I think this is very similar to the submarine red light argument, but I think I'm totally going back on what I said earlier, but I think I would totally do this in post-production, because I think I would use one light. Let's say that our character is outside and the moon is shining. I would use one light to get that moon effect and kind of get the reflection on their face and on their hair and on their body and stuff like that. And then I would take it into post and then add a night filter or turn down the exposure a little bit and add a little blue color in there and make it seem like it's at night. I feel like that would look totally better than doing it in camera, because I feel like in camera it'd be way too dark. And that's just my opinion on that. Okay, yeah. I sort of do a combination of it sometimes. The reason I bring it up, because although it's very similar to the red light argument, I think the key difference is with the red is that's just a different color of light, whereas this might be the absence of light. And I think one of the big mistakes that people make is that when it's nighttime, they should just switch all their lamps off and shoot it like that. And I think the problem with doing that is then you are basically shooting on ambient light that's like seeping in from your curtains from outside or somewhere else in the house. And I think that's when you start to sort of get a lower quality film. Right.
So I think, although it might seem counterintuitive, I think it's really important to keep your lights, or maybe drop it down a couple of lights, but keep some lights there lighting the set, and act like it's daytime, and then draw it down in post, which is sort of against what we said earlier, but because that was on the color, this is on the levels of lighting. I think you definitely want to be tweaking this in post and not in production.
Oh yeah, I think this is something, you know, that anybody can definitely experiment with, and you know, you do what is best for you and what is best for your film. You don't have to listen to us and follow our every step, but just do whatever you think looks best, and that will show in the film itself.
And also, definitely don't be afraid to just take a couple of images, go to your computer, and just see how they look. Change it up a bit. You don't have to jump straight in and do it straight away. And actually, you can learn a lot about lighting just from doing little exercises like that. You know, see what happens if I move this lamp, or if I light the background from a different angle. Dragon Frame's got a really nice feature that lets you sort of test. You get like a test image to start off with, and then you can sort of fill with some settings in the camera and whatnot.
And I think the lesson, the oral, you know, story, the moral of the story is, you know, test things out, experiment, and see, you know, what works for you. I think that's the big. It's not really a rule. It's just like a please try this and see how it goes. Don't just go into your film first thing and do this and expect it to go well. You need to experiment and see how, you know, these lighting tricks and how not using lights or whatever you're doing, you just need to test things out and experiment and see, you know, does this work for you, or does this work for your film?
Don't be afraid to get creative as well. I may have mentioned in previous episodes, when I was shooting my James Bond film, I was doing a scene in M's office where it's supposed to look like daytime outside, but I used like tissue paper for the curtains, and then I sort of sat a lamp right behind the office set, shooting through the tissue paper to sort of make it look like a sun.
Oh yeah, so that looked good.
I think sometimes you just gotta be a little bit creative, think a little bit outside the box, and yeah, I've seen some really nice little lighting tricks. One of my favorites, Fallen Creature. His Minecraft films. His son is actually a post-it, and he lights it from under the desk.
That's true.
So that's just another nice little creative solution.
Definitely, I would say definitely, you know, watch behind the scenes of other animators and see how they do their sets and how they light, you know, their animations, because I think behind the scenes are one of the key things that have made me as a better filmmaker and better animator. And you know, I don't. It's not really stealing. It's just, you know, taking inspiration, and it really helps build your set of skills. And I think that's very important.
I mean, at the end of the day, I think behind the scenes is sort of a form of tutorials in a way.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay, nice. So I think we've covered that topic rather nicely.
I think we killed it.
Up to the 28-minute mark. So we're gonna draw down this episode. I'd like to thank you all for listening this week. We've spoken a bit about lighting. Next week we're gonna get onto other equipment that's used around the set. I've been joined by my co-host, co-creator, Jared from Adobrick.
Thank you. God bless. Great episode.
I'm Tom from Scorch Breaks, the channel that this is on. And yeah, thanks for stopping by. Drop a like, drop a subscribe, and we'll see you again next week, same time.
See ya.